I discovered her concealed phone containing 18 months of correspondence with her tennis coach after being married for 29 years. Instead of confronting her or reacting angrily, I chose to disappear. There was no goodbye, no note, just vanishing without a trace. For several months, I created a fresh existence away from her reach. Eventually, a letter arrived bearing her distinctive handwriting, indicating she had traced my location. Now, I faced a decision. My name is Warren Harris. I'm 52 years old, and until last year, I worked as a financial consultant at Henderson and Blake in Chicago. We assist high net worth clients with asset growth, tax regulations, and retirement planning. For 27 years, I established my career on anticipating potential calamities before they occur. Ironically, I failed to recognize the impending disaster within my own household. Jennifer and I tied the knot at a young age, both 23, filled with dreams. Our daughter Emma was born 2 years later. I believed we constructed an ideal life. The Oak Park Tudor-style house, annual trips to Maine, Emma's graduation from Northwestern, all elements of what seemed like perfection. For years, I toiled away with extended hours, assuring myself it was for our sake and our future. However, issues arose around our 25th anniversary. Securing the Bishop account, a family boasting over $50 million, necessitated an extensive portfolio restructuring which consumed me for 3 months, leaving me largely office-bound. On Emma's 27th birthday, a sudden client crisis kept me away from our dinner, and Jennifer didn't lash out. Instead, she gazed at me with an empty countenance and stated, "I wasn't expecting anything different." I tried making amends, arranging a surprise weekend in New York for Jennifer and purchasing an expensive watch for Emma. However, presents don't compensate for absence, and deep within, I recognized it. I vowed to prioritize family after the Bishop project, then the Henderson promotion, then tax season passed, but my promises remained unfulfilled while Jennifer delved into a book club, took up tennis, began volunteering at an art museum, all positive and wholesome pursuits. I took delight in knowing she had hobbies beyond our marriage. I never pondered over why she all of a sudden required numerous activities outside the house. One unusual day in April, I arrived home ahead of schedule. I'd sealed a significant business deal and wished to surprise Jennifer with a dinner reservation at Alinea, a renowned 3-star Michelin restaurant she had long admired. The house was vacant, but her car was parked in the garage. I called out her name, searched the backyard, then our bedroom. Her wardrobe door was partially opened. Inside, on the shelf where she kept her winter scarves, I noticed an unfamiliar phone. It wasn't password protected. The text messages dated back 18 months. His name was Richard. He was her tennis coach. The most recent message had been sent that morning. Anticipating the moment I feel your touch again. Last night was extraordinary. I stood there, staring at that small screen, feeling as if I'd been struck by a bullet. 29 years of marriage, 29 years of what I believed was constructing an indestructible bond. In that instant, all my prior beliefs about my life shattered as fragile glass. Instead of confronting Jennifer right away, an unusual numbness took over me. I put the phone back where I had discovered it and walked down to the garage, sitting in the car for almost an hour. Upon her return, laden with grocery bags and whistling a tune, I assisted her in unpacking as if nothing were amiss. "You're early today," she remarked, her surprise evident. "I finished the Wilkerson deal ahead of schedule," I replied calmly, arranging cans in the pantry. "That's excellent," she responded with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Salmon for dinner," she mentioned casually. We ate across from each other at our kitchen island, just as we had countless times before. She spoke about her day at the museum, hinting at a new exhibit arriving in June. I nodded, asked relevant questions, all the while pondering if she'd seen him before returning home. Following dinner, I expressed to her that I felt compelled to drive to ease work-related worries. She hardly glanced up from loading the dishwasher. "Don't be out too long," Jennifer remarked offhandedly, giving the impression of concern about my time. I aimlessly cruised through our neighborhood, passing the elementary school where Emma used to play soccer and the park where I taught her to bike, with 29 years of memories at every turn. I found myself at Lake Michigan, observing waves collide with the shore in the night. My phone buzzed, a message from Jennifer asking when I would return. The irony wasn't elusive. It was as clear as the stars above the lake. It was then that realization struck me. I needed to vanish, not dramatically or vengefully, but simply go. I couldn't bear her excuses or fake tears. I could no longer endure the idea of couples therapy, where we'd pretend there was hope for our relationship. I vanished after her affair. I never intended to come back until she traced me down several months later. That evening, stationed in my car with the lake sprawling ahead, I hadn't anticipated her locating me. I wasn't even certain if I wished to be discovered. First, I visited an ATM and withdrew $3,000, the maximum daily withdrawal. Subsequently, I booked a room at a roadside inn outside the city, using cash. The room bore the scent of inexpensive detergent and lingering smoke, but it was clean enough. I perched on the bed's edge and contacted Emma. "Dad," she responded, sounding taken aback. "Everything all right? It's quite late." "All is well, dear," I lied, attempting to maintain a normal tone. "In case you can't reach me, I might be unreachable for a few days. Work commitments, don't fret." "That's unusual timing," Emma commented. "Mom had just texted, inquiring about my whereabouts." "I'll contact her," I assured her, merely wanting to express my love. "Love you too, Dad," she replied, evident confusion in her voice. After that, I switched off my phone. I avoided Jennifer's calls and messages. Not immediately, perhaps not ever. That night, sleep eluded me. Over and over again, I saw those messages, envisioning their union. By daybreak, I made up my mind. I wouldn't go back. A man can only endure so much deceit before something fundamental snaps within him. I was going to begin anew, somewhere unfamiliar, a place she wouldn't find me. I had vanished, and at that instant, I didn't intend to reappear. By morning, I had a strategy. I required a fresh identity, not just on paper, but in reality, someplace Jennifer wouldn't suspect. I returned to Chicago, parked in a public garage downtown, and walked to my bank. I took $5,000 from our joint account and shut down my personal account completely, transferring the funds to a new account at another bank. Then I visited our safety deposit box and retrieved my passport, birth certificate, and the gold coins my father had bequeathed me. When Mr. Harris, the bank manager, inquired cheerfully about my business, just settling my affairs, I responded, managing a return smile. After consulting with lawyer Arthur Simmons, a trusted confidant for decades, I informed him of Jennifer's affair and my decision to depart. Upon seeing me, he expressed concern and asked what had transpired. I divulged the infidelity and announced my departure. He appeared saddened, but inquired if I had addressed the issue with Jennifer. I stated definitively that I had not and would not do so. I sought his assistance, demanding utmost discretion. I disclosed my intention to vanish temporarily, which Arthur listened to without judgment before nodding gravely. He vowed to manage everything on his end. I assured him to contact our daughter Emma when settled, stating she should be spared from the chaos. For Jennifer, he promised to remain silent. If she sought a divorce, he advised her to file the papers, and I agreed to sign whatever was necessary. I left Arthur my power of attorney and instructions for managing my assets. He consented to send crucial mail to a PO box I had established. Afternoon found me registering at another hotel using an alias and purchasing a prepaid phone. I dialed Emma's number one last time. "Dad, Mom's extremely anxious," she began. "What's happening?" I responded. "I've discovered Richard's secret," I confessed softly. A prolonged silence ensued before Emma murmured, "You knew." "Indeed," I acknowledged, "learned about it yesterday." There was a moment of hesitation before she admitted, "For nearly a month now. I had witnessed them together at a restaurant. She claimed it was merely friendship, but I'm no fool. I require some space," I explained. "Will contact when possible. Are you all right?" she inquired, her concern palpable. "No," I admitted truthfully, "but I will be." Following our conversation, I sat on the hotel bed's edge and felt an emotion I hadn't anticipated: relief. The choice was made. No more deceit, no more attempting to mend what was irrevocably damaged. The next day, I hopped on a Greyhound bus headed west. 29 years of memories receded as I departed Chicago, leaving them behind while I ventured into whatever was ahead. After 3 days and multiple bus transfers, I reached Portland, Oregon, a destination selected at random and offering a climate contrasting with Chicago's. The persistent drizzle echoed my own melancholy upon my arrival at an unassuming extended-stay hotel. For 2 weeks, I scarcely ventured out except for essentials. I grew a beard, disliked by Jennifer, and purchased second-hand clothing. Flannel shirts and work boots, attire far removed from my financial consultant persona. In time, I transformed into someone else. Emerging from my grieving cocoon, I started exploring the city. On a rainy afternoon, I stumbled upon the Portland Botanical Garden. The lush greenery and tranquil pathways healed a part of me that had been rough and exposed. In this first visit, an older gentleman inquired, observing me admiring a Japanese maple. For the first time in a while, I responded truthfully. The man identified himself as Harold Thornton. He and his wife Elena owned a vast estate beyond the city, seeking a gardener. "Are you familiar with plants?" Harold queried, "under the condition they don't deceive or defraud." I responded with more resentment than intended. Harold chuckled, justifiably. "Have you ever worked manually?" I confessed. "Not on a professional level." "Professional experience is overstated," Harold asserted. "I require someone who admires beauty and isn't deterred by labor. The cottage on our grounds includes employment." "I'm not seeking aid," I stated decisively. "Thankfully, as I'm not extending charity," Harold retorted. "Instead, I'm providing fair remuneration for genuine work. Ponder it." He provided a card bearing an address and number, then proceeded his walk through the garden. That evening, I dialed the number. A week subsequently, I settled into the gardener's abode within the Thornton estate, a stone edifice boasting aged wooden rafters and windows facing east for morning sun capture. My financial proficiency bore no relevance here, but as I grasped the art of pruning roses and cultivating seedlings, I unearthed an alternative form of gratification, swift, tangible outcomes from my toil. No clients, no time constraints, no deceits, merely soil, development, and weather. For the first time in months, I experienced sleep devoid of dreams. 6 months slipped by in a seasonal rhythm. Summer morphed into autumn, painting the Thornton estate in vibrant reds and golds. I deciphered the plant's lingo, which ones flourished in shade, those requiring consistent care, and the tough ones capable of enduring neglect. Occasionally, I noticed resemblances to human relationships that I strive to ignore. Harold and Elena emerged as unforeseen companions. They respected my personal space, yet invited me to occasional dinners where conversations were effortless, excluding discussions about my past. They never inquired, and I valued that more than they realized. On a clear October morning, I drove into town for essentials. The local post office had become part of my regular routine. Arthur forwarded significant items to my PO box there. Typically, it housed only financial statements or short updates about my previous life. But that day, a thick envelope, cream-colored and labeled with Jennifer's distinct handwriting, awaited among the standard mail. I scrutinized it for so long that the postal clerk inquired if everything was okay. "Yes," I replied tersely, stashing the envelope into my jacket pocket without opening it. I went about my errands automatically, the envelope pressuring against my chest like a hot ember. Returning to the cottage, I set it on the table in the kitchen and ventured into the garden for some vigorous rose trimming, as if eliminating my thoughts would be as effortless. By sunset, I was drained but more peaceful. I cleaned up, prepared a minimal meal, and poured a drink of whiskey. It wasn't until then that I opened the envelope. The contents were a 10-page letter in Jennifer's handwriting. The initial line stunned me. "I have found you, Warren," following months of hunting. She had employed a private investigator to trace me through my newly established bank account. Jennifer recounted her astonishment at my disappearance, her puzzlement when Arthur refused to disclose my location, and her subsequent understanding that I must have uncovered her affair with Richard. "What you are unaware of," she wrote, "is that it ended months prior." It was never genuine, merely a feeble attempt to feel something once more. I took a lengthy sip of whiskey, my hands unmoving despite the turmoil within. Jennifer detailed the instances where she confronted her mother. Their communication ceased for weeks. Her friends stopped inviting her to events, making her large house feel like a relic of her past. The final excerpt was most impactful. I don't seek forgiveness, Warren, nor do I anticipate a reply. However, I need to see you one last time, to bid farewell appropriately, to express these thoughts in person. I'll be at the Riverside Hotel in Portland next Tuesday, room 412. If you don't show up, I'll understand, and we'll never communicate again. I gently folded the letter and placed it back into its envelope. Then, I stepped outside under the stars, taking deep breaths of the crisp night air. Jennifer had located me after months of silence and rebuilding. The question wasn't whether I would attend. The question was what kind of person I would be when faced with her. I chose not to inform Harold and Elena about Jennifer's letter. Elena, with her keen intuition, noticed something amiss. The hydrangeas appeared neglected. She commented offhandedly as we walked through the garden, "And it seems you're feeling the same way." I admitted to being distracted. She responded, "Garden is a reflection of the mind dealing with what the heart isn't prepared to confront yet." Elena added, "Whatever burden you carry, Warren, remember that resilience doesn't lie in never faltering. It lies in how you rise again after falling." I nodded gratefully, speechless due to the lump in my throat. The weekend was a whirlwind of gardening and inner turmoil. By Tuesday morning, I made up my mind. I informed Harold that I needed a day off for personal matters. "Take as much time as you need," Harold said, gripping my shoulder. "The garden can wait." I drove to downtown Portland with the windows open, letting the autumn breeze clear my thoughts. The Riverside Hotel was a contemporary glass building overlooking the Willamette River. I parked in a public garage and spent nearly 20 minutes collecting courage inside my truck. At precisely noon, I tapped on room 412. The door swung open promptly. Jennifer was there, unlike how I remembered her. Slimmer, with strands of gray hair that she used to dye. Her eyes widened at the sight of my beard and worn-out appearance. "Warren," she breathed, moving aside to let me enter. The room was typical of a hotel, with a king bed, desk, and 2 armchairs by the window. Her suitcase was neatly stacked in the corner, her distinctive perfume lingering faintly. "You've changed," Jennifer started. "A lot." I completed her sentence. "So have you." An awkward silence enveloped us. After a while, she said, "Thank you for coming." She indicated the armchairs with a gesture. "I wasn't sure you would. My letter didn't give me many options." "I apologize," Jennifer said quickly, "not just for finding you, but for everything." "Why did you seek me out?" I questioned, getting to the crux of the matter. We both understood that our marriage had ended when I read those messages. Jennifer's composure faltered slightly, "Because you vanished without a trace. Considering we've been together for 29 years, I at least deserved a farewell, and I deserved loyalty." I retorted, maintaining an unexpectedly tranquil tone. "Not everyone gets what they deserve." She winced as if I had struck her. "You're correct," she murmured. I wanted to clarify. "You already did so in your letter," I interjected. "Richard was a diversion. We were restless, bored. I wasn't present enough." "I've heard those reasons before, Jennifer, just not about us." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Is that what you believe? That I'm making excuses?" "Aren't you?" I asked. "No," she responded decisively. "I'm admitting fault. What I did was inexcusable. I damaged something valuable because I was weak and self-centered." Her sincerity took me aback. This wasn't the dialogue I had imagined in my mind. "I'm not seeking apologies," I stated to Jennifer. "I've returned because fleeing didn't resolve anything. We need resolution. Emma avoids me. She can't forgive me for pushing you away." Jennifer nodded, clearly regaining her composure. "Emma declines to communicate with me," she whispered. "She believes she can never forgive me for your departure." "I'll address her," I responded. "It's not about being generous, it's about honesty. You made your choices, I made mine." A profound silence ensued, our 29 years of shared history reduced to tense silences and cautious words. "Are you content here?" Jennifer eventually inquired, as a gardener. The question might have appeared condescending from another, but her tone conveyed genuine curiosity. "I am," I replied truthfully. There's a certain honesty about nurturing growth due to one's efforts. No corporate politics, no client pressures, just earth, plants, and weather. "What about the Thorntons?" she queried. "Arthur brought them up when my investigator managed to get him to chat." "Good people," I replied succinctly. "They granted me solitude when I required it the most." She nodded, then delved into her purse and extracted a substantial envelope. "I've prepared divorce papers," she disclosed, positioning them on the coffee table between us. "Everything's been divided equally. The house is currently up for sale." My gaze fixed on the envelope, tumultuous emotions simmering beneath my composed facade. The termination of nearly 3 decades together, encapsulated in legal documents and signatures. "You're not disputing anything?" I inquired. "Why would I?" she retorted. "I breached our vows, Warren. I won't exacerbate that by arguing over possessions." Her accountability astonished me once more. This was not the response I had anticipated. "There's one additional matter," she continued, extracting a smaller envelope. "Emma is getting married in June, defying everything. Despite all this, she asked you to accompany her during the wedding ceremony." My throat constricted. "Is she engaged?" "To who?" "Christopher Matthews. They've been together for approximately a year. You'd find him appealing. He's an architect, dependable, looks after her well." The thought that I had overlooked my daughter's relationship hit me hard. Life seemed to have moved on without me. "You should be present as well," I commented later. "Regardless of our past issues, she needs her mother." Jennifer's eyes brimmed with tears. "I've tried to tell her that. Perhaps she'll listen to you." I nodded, deciding to contact Emma soon. Some connections couldn't be severed, despite the pain associated with revisiting them. As our discussion drew to a close, I found myself examining Jennifer's face, recognizing the lines around her eyes, the habit of pushing her hair behind her ear when unsure. Previously, I had cherished those characteristics. Now, they represented a phase in my life that was ending. It was time for me to leave, I announced, standing and collecting the divorce papers envelope. Jennifer also stood up, keeping a respectful distance. "I apologize, Warren, not just for the affair, but for taking so long to become the person who could acknowledge it was all my fault." I gave a single nod, acknowledging her words without immediately offering forgiveness. As I prepared to depart, I paused at the door. "Take care, Jennifer," I said softly, offering the most sincere sentiment I could muster. Upon reaching the Thornton estate, I found tulips and daffodils blooming, which I had planted in the fall, pushing through soil towards sunlight. The determination they displayed resonated with me. True to my promise, I contacted Emma the day after meeting Jennifer. We spoke for close to 2 hours about her engagement, her job at the environmental law firm, and eventually about her mother. "She said she destroyed everything," Emma expressed, her voice laced with anger. "No, she harmed our marriage," I corrected softly. "But you're not a casualty of war, Emma. Don't jeopardize your bond with your mother due to our past issues." "Why are you so composed about this?" Emma inquired. "I'm maintaining anger only harms me." I confessed. I departed to seek tranquility, not to retaliate against her. After a series of persuasive conversations, Emma consented to contact her mother. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was the beginning. 2 weeks later, Harold found me tending the rose garden. "Eleanor's birthday dinner is tonight." He reminded me, "You're expected at 7, and there's another guest I want you to meet." I'd almost forgotten. "I'll be there myself," I agreed. That night, I cleaned up and dressed in the only nice outfit I possessed: khakis and a blue button-down shirt that Jennifer had bought me years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me as I approached the main house, a bottle of Eleanor's favorite wine in hand. The Thornton residence, a grand Victorian with wraparound porches and invitingly lit windows, was bathed in the glow of the approaching twilight. Eleanor welcomed me with her customary friendliness. "Warren, you look well-groomed," she commented, smiling. "Meet our guest, Grace Winters." In the living room, a woman was perusing the bookshelves, tall and distinguished, with dark hair streaked with silver, tied simply in a knot. She turned as we entered, showing her sharp intelligence and easy smile. She wore a modest black dress that suggested sophistication rather than extravagance. Eleanor introduced me to Grace Winters, Eleanor's niece from Seattle, Eleanor explained. "Grace, this is Warren Harris, the gardening prodigy who revitalized your gardens." Grace extended her hand and said, "Nice to meet you, Warren." Her handshake was firm, her gaze direct. Over dinner, I found out that Grace was a retired judge, now lecturing law at the University of Washington. She had never married, opting for career over family, a choice she discussed without remorse or second thoughts. Despite my initial hesitations, her dry wit and candid demeanor captivated me. After the dessert, Harold proposed brandy on the porch. Eleanor declined, feigning tiredness, while Harold inexplicably recalled a phone call he needed to make, leaving Grace and me by ourselves with our snifters. Grace noted they weren't subtle. "No," I concurred. "For quite some time, Eleanor has been suggesting that I need more companionship than plants." "Do you?" Grace inquired directly. I ponder the question sincerely. My divorce isn't completely settled yet. I'm not planning to propose, Warren, Grace replied with a smile that reached her eyes. "Only conversation under the stars. We can begin there." Her honesty elicited a genuine and lengthy laugh from me, one I couldn't remember having for a long time. During the subsequent months, Grace and I cultivated a friendship that advanced at a careful pace. We met for coffee, then dinner, then leisurely walks through the gardens I tended. She never demanded more than I was prepared to offer, and I admired her restraint. My divorce became final in April. Jennifer and I completed the final documents in Arthur's office, the process being peaceful and somber. On leaving, she gently tapped my arm. "I ran into Emma last week," Jennifer shared. "She's given me another opportunity. I'm content." I responded honestly. "She requires her mother. She needs you as well," Jennifer explained. "We all did. I just recognized it late." I affirmed with a nod, understanding her words without revisiting past hurts. "Stay safe, Jennifer. You too, Warren," she whispered before heading towards her parked car. I remained on the sidewalk, watching her depart, feeling an unusual sense of freedom. The rage that once engulfed me had transformed into a softer emotion, not quite forgiveness, but acknowledgement. We each made decisions that led us here, and now we could advance individually. That night, I invited Grace to dinner at the cottage. It was the first time I'd extended an invitation into my personal sanctuary, and the gravity wasn't lost on either of us. "You appeared altered today," Grace noted as we sat on the porch post-dinner, watching the sunset tint the gardens golden. I informed her that my divorce was finalized, thereby closing that phase definitively. Grace gave a contemplative nod. "What's it like for you?" "I suppose it feels like unloading a burdensome weight," I concede. "Not entirely comfortable just yet. My muscles are still tensed from the exertion, but soothing." "Suitable for a gardener," Grace commented with a slight smile. "Plants teach you about cycles," I retorted. "Cycles of endings and beginnings, death and renewal." Grace's hand sought mine as the dusk deepened. Her palm was warm and slightly rough, the hand of someone who performed genuine labor despite her professional status. "I have no intention of replacing what you've lost," she stated directly. "That wouldn't be fair to either of us." "I understand," I replied. "What I admire about you is that you aren't attempting to fill someone else's shoes. You are carving your own path instead." The ensuing kiss was tender, hesitant, unassuming. When we parted, Grace looked at me with her usual frankness. "I don't require pledges," she stated. "What I seek is honesty. Can you provide that in whatever transpires between us?" I responded swiftly. "Yes, I can." Later, as we walked towards her car, Grace paused to gaze at the cottage and gardens bathed in moonlight. "You've constructed something lovely here, Warren," she remarked. As I observed the changes surrounding me, the neat rows, the flourishing plants, the tranquil cottage, I understood that she was right. From the embers of my past life, I have indeed fashioned something worthy of protection. Thank you, I replied sincerely on various counts, for recognizing it as her tail lights vanished down the driveway. I stood in the serene garden, listening to the night's symphony and feeling for the first time in a long while, genuinely optimistic about the future. June graced us with ideal weather for Emma's wedding day. In the anteroom of the church, I straightened my tie, hiding the tumult within me. Soon, I would escort my daughter down the aisle, a role I thought might elude me. The door creaked open, and Emma, resplendent in her wedding dress, entered gracefully. She paused, looking at me with wide eyes. "Dad," she murmured softly, "you look amazing, and you're stunning." I managed a response, my voice thick with emotion. "Your mother would be proud." A hint of doubt flickered across Emma's face. "Does it feel strange, having both of you here after everything?" I replied firmly. "Today isn't about us. It's about you and Christopher and your future." I extended my arm, and she took it gratefully, squeezing tightly. "I'm so grateful you came back," she whispered. "When you vanished after Mom's affair, I feared we'd lost you forever." "Never," I promised. "I needed space, but you're my daughter. That never changes." The ceremony unfolded in a haze of music, vows, and flowers. Jennifer sat in the front row, tears glistening in her eyes. In silence, we exchanged polite gestures, maintaining a dignified space. Our shared past didn't loom menacingly as it once did, instead coexisting with the current festivities. At the gathering, I danced with Emma, cherishing the brief moment. As the music stopped, she kissed my cheek and whispered. Inviting Grace next, I questioned, "Is this all right?" Before I could respond, Emma was led away by her newlywed spouse. Turning, I noticed Grace standing at the dance floor's edge in a modest blue gown, looking slightly hesitant, an unusual expression for her. "You made it," I said, approaching her. "My daughter reached out to me personally," Grace responded with a faint smile. "Quite persuasive indeed, like her father." I joked, extending my hand. "Shall we dance?" As we glided across the floor, Jennifer observed us from afar. She subtly saluted with her champagne glass, and after a brief pause, I returned the gesture. Some scars would persist, but they no longer dictate our identities. In the hotel gardens after the gathering, my hand intertwined with Grace's. She suggested I join her for Thanksgiving. "Too soon," she commented. "Not at all," I responded thoughtfully. "It feels appropriate." Grace halted, facing me. "Warren," she began, "I must ask you a question. Are you still evading your past, or are you prepared to construct a future?" The frankness of her query, so typical of Grace, warranted the same candor. Upon discovering the affair, I never intended a re-entry into my old life. I explained slowly. Even when Jennifer sought me out, I resisted reconnecting with that past, but now I view it differently. I am no longer fleeing. I am consciously opting to progress each day. Grace's smile made every challenging step of the journey worthwhile. "That was all I needed to hear," she said. Later that evening, as Emma and Christopher departed amid a rain of rice and well wishes, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The individual, once escaping from Chicago laden with anguish and deceit, was not recognizable as the person standing here currently. Despite my losses, I acquired something potentially priceless, the awareness that shattered entities, be they gardens or hearts, can be reconstructed with perseverance, tenderness, and the audacity to initiate anew.